Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Dawg post-game show. I should call it the Dogless post-game show. My dog over here, Rufus, who's lying on the couch here, nice and easy, and resting. He'd probably play better than what the Brownies did earlier today. Oh my gosh, just pathetic, absolutely pathetic. I'm mourning the fact that the Browns suck. So we are 120-1 since coming back in '99, and man, same old Browns, right? You know, I like to give credit. I commented on Facebook earlier. By the way, this is the Johnny Cleveland podcast. This is our additional post-game show. We're calling the Dawg post-game show, which I should be calling the Dogless game post-game show. But we're streaming on both Facebook and on my own feed and our Johnny Cleveland podcast feed, and also over on YouTube. So thank you for following us, and glad that you are coming and listening to these podcasts. Either we'll be putting this one on audio too later on this evening. So anyway, like to shout out to the ESPN on their feed. I was just looking here on my Facebook. I call them the same old Browns, and a lot of us know what that means if you're a lifelong Browns fan. Jake Trotter out of ESPN also used that in his headline. Same old Browns and big loss at Baltimore. I mean, where do you start? I mean, it's just it was so pathetic. They took my son, or my co-host Grantman. He might come in and share the stage here, so I'll let you guys know that. But he came along. We went and watched the game with a family, and had a good time. But it totally went south. Did it not? What can you say? There just so many mistakes. Kevin Stefanski just looked totally like a rookie coach. When's it going to stop? I mean, my entire life and my entire being has been a Browns fan, like many of you, and it's really bad. It is really bad. There's not a lot of optimism. I made that prediction when I came out with my schedule, and I think I predicted a 10-6 or 11-5 record, and I kidded with my kids, Mariah and then Matt, the other night that, you know, after the first quarter, it would be going from 10-6 to 4-12, and that's pretty much the case. Baker Mayfield looks totally lost still. His footwork, he looks nervous. He does not look himself. I don't know what's happened, if he's just thinking too hard. Jarvis Landry looked okay early on, made some nice catches. There were some signs early on in the game when we had a couple drives early on. Nick Chubb had a nice run to start the game. I think he had an 11 or 12-yard run. Kareem Hunt actually had more carries than Nick Chubb today. Kareem ended up, I think, with about 13 carries, about 72 yards. Nick Chubb had about 10 carries for 60. Baker Mayfield was about 11 of 19, I think, for like 189 yards. His passer rating was pathetic. On the other hand, Baltimore looked like a potential world champion, and maybe that's what we take out of this when we look back at the end of the season, that Baltimore really was a great team last year when we played Tennessee in the home opener and got our butts kicked in that game. Tennessee ended up being a pretty good team. Cleveland has so many weapons, though. It's just inexcusable. There's no chemistry in this team. The body language amongst the players is just awful. They don't look like they really are connected. I thought maybe having a new head coach step in would bring some fire to some of these players, but it did not seem like it. The way that the game there were just too many things going on throughout the game. There really were you start with the fake punt. I mean, you're at your own 30. I know you probably build that into the game plan. And the guy just missed his block. 23, the new safety that we've got that came over from Minnesota with Stefanski, missed the block. he had kind of a crease there, or Gilliam or punter, to try to get that first down. But you're at your own 30. You're already down 7-0. And to do that was just boneheaded, complete boneheaded move by a very young, inexperienced coach. I don't know why he would have done that. You're putting yourself in such a spot. It's unbelievable that he did that. When we saw it, it was like, really, so that, then the mix, when they finally did get in, it was 10-0. They got back, and then they missed the extra point. At that point, my prediction for the Browns winning 26-21, that was my original prediction. I thought, well, okay, this is good, because I said that they were going to miss an extra point, so that would line up with getting to the 26 points. Obviously, I was completely wrong, because the Browns, if you look down here, the Browns lose badly to the Ravens, 38-6. So, they actually had a drive toward the end of the second quarter where they were still down 10-6 and turned the ball over again. Or I think they turned it down on a punt, but then they scored 17-6 again. They went back down, and then again at the end of the first half, Odell Beckham, inexcusable, 3rd and 2. Baker actually gave him a nice touch pass and just completely dropped it. Just unbelievable that a player of that character, or no, I shouldn't say character, the guy doesn't have a lot of character. The player of that athleticism can drop it, just not focused, totally not focused. And that's not on Stefanski. It is kind of, because he's the coach and you've got to get that. But at this level, when you're coaching these athletes who think that they're better than everybody else, that's a problem. I don't know about you, but Odell does not. I don't know if he's going to make it through the season with the Browns. Baker is on thin ice. I don't know how else we say this. He's small. When I was talking to my cousin Brian today, we were watching the game together, and Brian and I had a short discussion about just, again, the idea that Baker Mayfield, and maybe us Browns fans just want to ignore that fact, but it's a huge deal. And if you watch him during the game and look at Baker's size compared to his offensive and these defensive linemen, it's ginormous difference. And Baker's got to find creases to throw the ball. He'll get his pass knocked down. And, I think that's playing into kind of this whole thing with Baker and his mental state and his footwork, and continue to look jittery today. I don't know if you guys watched it that closely, but he wasn't throwing it. He wasn't making up his mind. You could see him kind of running through his progressions. So I'm very worried about Baker. You got Case Keenum back there as a backup, and Stefanski feels comfortable with him since he played in Minnesota. And I would not be surprised if the Browns lose to Cincinnati on Thursday night, which is coming up. It's going to be on national TV. Joe Burrow, the new Joe Schmo, like Mariah likes to say, beat the Browns in Cleveland on Thursday night. I may give Baker maybe 2 more games, and at that point, if you go 0-4 to start the season, you got week 4 is the game down in Dallas against the Cowboys in Jerry's World. These silly commercials that Baker's putting out there again for progression or progressive is just adds to it. Speaking of Baker again, and I'm not. This is the loss today was not on Baker Mayfield. I know that was one of the questions. Some people, who are you most upset with? Who's to take the blame for the loss? Collectively, the entire team sucked. They're terrible. And at this point, but the one I lost my train of thought there. They're just really bad, and so there's just so many things that we can look at going through the entire game. Baker, you can blame him all you want, and there are a lot of other things that our defense was just absolutely terrible. We did get the turnover early in the game where we kind of stopped the drive. But then, Baltimore comes back in the first half, or I think it was at the end of the first half where they had the 99-yard drive as well. So we'll see. It's not a good start for us Browns. We haven't won a game in 99, a home opener, well, one time in 2004. And so, by the way, if you're watching the show right now, I've added a few little things here. We've got our little icon up there in the corner, if you can see. If you'd like to comment on the show or make a comment about what's going on with the Browns game or what happened or what wasn't really happening because we were so lousy, you can send out those comments. I'll try to answer those and kind of go from there. But yeah, we'll see. Thursday, we've got the game on Thursday now, and we've got right now, just looking at the score, Cincinnati actually is winning early on out there in San Diego. Joe Schmo and the Cincinnati Bengals. Man, if they come into town and beat up on the Browns on Thursday, this fan base is about had it. I think that's really where the same old Browns, and all those Browns fans. That's what we take. All these years, and it's easy. We're a very easy target for all of you who are watching out there who are not Browns fans, and you know who you are, especially you Steelers fans. It's an easy thing to do. I would think that other fans of other teams, you've probably made a better decision to be a fan of those other teams, but you should give us Browns fans a little bit more real respect for the fact that we are hiding behind this atrocious organization. We have great fans. We have loyal fans who are trying to figure out a way to help the Browns win, and we'll even put our own dogs out there, like my dog Rufus, who's currently taking a nap. So, but even in his sleep, my dog would probably do better than most of the players on the Browns today. So it is what it is. I don't have a lot more to say. A lot of you who like to watch or have listened to the rants in the past on Facebook, I'm running out of juice, running out of things to talk about, because today was just one of those, those examples of where the Browns just, it's too hard. It's, they look nice in their new uniforms. I'm still wearing my Baker Mayfield jersey today, but I feel like taking it off most of the time today. I'm trying to stay loyal, but Baker Mayfield's in a whole bunch of trouble, and having a backup like Case Keenum we talked about before is a real possibility. Our field goal kicker Siebert. These are days where you really want Phil Dawson back, right? I mean, in Phil we trust. And boy, do I miss Phil Dawson, right? At least you always knew that you were going to get you always knew that you were going to get at least 6 points possibly, and you're not going to get that here. So, Siebert's probably going to be. I mean, I don't think the Browns would get rid of him right away. I think they'll at least give him through Thursday against Cincinnati. He better make his field goals. But for right now, and the way that during the game progressed, the other thing that I thought offensively, the Browns were just doing too much. I think, and I don't know Stefanski, I mean, he even said it kind of during halftime that they were trying to get the ball to like OBJ. And again, when the Browns are trying to force things like that, it's just not good. And OBJ was just in another planet today. That drop on 3rd and 2 was just devastating. How a guy can catch all these behind the back catches and whatnot and drop an easy target just because you're not focused. And he's getting paid a lot of money to do that. So, it surprised me too. I was happy with, I guess the only saving grace here is when you're looking at a running back tandem of Chubb and Hunt. I think that they're still going to continue to be a strong tandem. Chubb kind of started off good. He had two decent runs, one of 12 yards, I think one of like 25. And Kareem Hunt had several other runs too. But, at that point, you had to abandon the running game today because you're down 30 points. It just blows my mind. And I know we don't have a preseason, but nobody had a preseason. And the Browns just look like they've been playing all these years. And, us fans are just sick and tired of it. We're absolutely sick and tired of the losses and just the way that the team doesn't seem connected to its fans. I mean, if you follow us fan bases and listen to, I know, we're not coaches, but it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out how to win. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a jinx, what it is, but Browns teams, especially this last 20 years, have just been awful for the most part. And I hope that Baker can figure things out. I just don't see it right now. He's overthrowing the ball. He's throwing the ball with too much zip. My cousin Brian and I were also talking about that earlier, that, the former stupid John Elway, who ruined my childhood, he also had a tendency to throw the ball really hard with a lot of zip, and a lot of coaches had to talk to him about how to not throw, a fastball every time and to kind of develop a touch on these passes. And Baker, that's what he's got to continue to get better at that, because every time he's firing it like too high, or oftentimes behind the player. His first interception tonight or this afternoon, again, was a zipped ball that was behind the receiver. It got tipped, and of course, Baltimore was right there to scoop it up. Always seems that way, right? So the way that this game, and I know that Baltimore talked going into the game that they didn't want to have a repeat of what happened when Cleveland came to Baltimore last year, and Nick Chubb had 3 touchdowns and 165 yards. Man, I would have not enjoyed having that. By the way, again, if you want to send a comment to the show, we're on live right now, and I will get your comments. If you send me a comment, you have to send me one. And we'll try to answer those questions or comments while you're watching. So, again, you can email the show at jclevelandpod. You can see that right there in front of you. And the Browns did lose today, 38-6. We do call this the Dawg Postgame Show. And I am your host, John Suchan, and glad to have you on board and watching, and appreciate all the support. We've been really, I've been giving out the podcast, the audio versions of it every week. We could try to come on the air at least three times a week. And now with the football season, that's part of my reason for this, doing the post games show is really part of why I wanted to do this podcast, because I love Browns games. I love listening like the pregame, the postgame shows, and I thought I could contribute in that way and talking about the Browns. But today was one of those days where it just, we were really bad again, and there's not much you can talk about when your team is 1-20-1. That 2 years ago when they played the Steelers, that game, the Browns technically did not lose, but they did not win because they tied the Steelers in that overtime loss where both Pittsburgh and Cleveland had chances in overtime to win it. It was that dreary, awful September afternoon when it was like raining, just really bad. By the way, that was one of the things that was brought up on Facebook. Cousin of mine, Chris, mentioned, and I was actually at the same time he mentioned it. My other cousin I was hanging with today, Brian, mentioned that we were watching the game. It's like in Baltimore, there are all these like the helpers at the stadium, and they were dressed in red. They looked like State Farm agents. Why were they facing like out, like and not watching the game? But there weren't no fans in the stands. Were they monitoring the cardboard boxes or the cardboard fixtures of Baltimore fans? We weren't trying to figure that one out, what was going on there. So anyway, so just run down through a couple other early games too. there were, talking about teams that really stink. The Detroit Lions had a big lead again, and like they do traditionally, also they lost the late game against the Bears. And a kind of a surprise, I had my picks over. I'm pulling it up here right now. I had picked the Bills over the. I had picked the Bills over the Jets, and so that was a good pick. However, the one game I had picked as an upset, I had the Colts. Well, the Colts were gonna. That wasn't my upset, but the Colts I had beating Jacksonville, because I figured Jacksonville has lost all these players. Jacksonville actually won that game late against the Colts. My upset today was going to be the Miami Dolphins over the New England Patriots, but the Patriots did pull it out there with Cam Newton, 21-11. Also, the Washington football team defeated the Philadelphia Eagles today, 27-17. A little bit of a surprise. It was played in Washington, but I wasn't sure. It looked like the Eagles were up on top early in that game. And a bit of a surprise, too. The Packers beat up on the Vikings over in Minnesota. The Panthers lost to the Las Vegas Raiders. And like I already mentioned, that the Bills beat the Jets. And the Falcons lost to Seattle. A shout out to Seattle. I also know the Marquise Blair, who was a Worcester High School graduate. And he had a really good game in helping the Seahawks beat the Atlanta Falcons today. So shout out to them. And then, of course, the other night when the Chiefs played the Texans, and the Chiefs obviously dominated. Congratulations to the Chiefs and all of those my friends and family that support the Kansas City Chiefs. There was some debate. I know some discussion today, the other day, about the Chiefs and the Texans, and how they stood in unity, and there were some people at the Chiefs game that were supposedly booing, and there was some debate about that. And I didn't talk about this on my podcast the other day, but I just the fans that were booing, and I understand that the Texans did not come out of the tunnel for the national anthem, and maybe some of those fans were booing because of that. I'm not sure. Wasn't there. Whatever fans are booing for, I don't. If it was because they didn't like the fact that the players were coming together in unity, if that was the reason that these fans were booing, then shame on those fans. They don't. There's it. I don't know what fans want players to do. It's like, what do we want? Like I've said this before on my other podcast. What do you want from these players? That you want them to entertain you, in the minute that they entertain you, but then share their support for something that they believe in as young people. It's just something that, if you are booing because you don't want people to show unity, that's just out of bounds. I don't understand that thought. So I'd love for anybody who's watching or listens to this show, try to explain to me how that's acceptable. But today, the Browns game, I saw some players bent down on a knee. I saw many players holding, locked in arms. Baker Mayfield. That was the other thing I was going to mention about Baker, and it bothers me to a little bit of a degree, because he came out yesterday and tried to say that he was going to stand for the pledge. I don't know why Baker had to come out with his own comment about him standing, unless I don't know who's giving him pressure about standing or kneeling. I know he's talked about it, but no one that I know in the press or something was saying, well, what's Baker going to do? I mean, we will just wait and see. But Baker came out with this whole statement yesterday prior to the games today, and saying that he was going to stand. That's great. But again, Baker's taking his attention away from the game of football. And I understand that platform a little bit, but that's where I get really concerned about Baker Mayfield and how much he really is thinking about playing football. And it's hard to think about doing your jobs and things like that. With all of us are dealing with lots of things right now. But it was just an interesting take. I don't know if anybody else looked at that in that way, but it certainly caught my eye. I know Baker's gotten a lot of attention over the last year. A lot of the players in the Browns, including Odell Beckham and some other players, for taking away from distracting, from doing things off the field that are taking them away from actually trying to be, a really good, connected, solid team. And that's really a major difference. And maybe that's the flaw that the Browns have had, and they haven't been able to fix that. We'll see. It was a surprise today that Nick Chubb actually had less yardage and less carries than Kareem Hunt, but it's nice to see Kareem Hunt in the backfield. He had a pretty decent game, so I would say that those guys were probably the two players that did halfway decent today, along with Landry, who had about 60 yards on about 5 catches as well. So anyway, that's all I got for you this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed coming over and watching this. It's kind of hard to find things to talk about for a long time when the Browns are playing so badly. It was not a good way to start the season, but we'll try to. Hopefully, the Browns will get their stuff together and have a better game plan for Thursday when Cincinnati comes to town. It'll be a Thursday night game broadcast nationally, so I hope they don't. It's Browns fans are tired of being embarrassed, and you're embarrassing the community. Football in Cleveland is big. It always has been. It's amazing considering how lousy our teams traditionally have been, especially the last 20 years. And for the masses of the older generation of fans who continue to get excited, and it's always fun. When you have the opening day, you have a lot of optimism, you have a lot of hope, and then by the end of the first part of the first quarter, you pretty much know, we're done. And so I give Browns fans a lot of credit. We are very diehard and very committed, and it doesn't bring us wins though, and we'll continue to get harassed from those Chiefs fans and those Steeler fans out there. But everybody, I hope you have a great evening. And again, thank you for coming over and watching us here on our podcast tonight. We're going to try this again after the game on Thursday, the Dawg post-game show. And until then, we'll talk to you again tomorrow. I'll have a chance to kind of go through some of the material for this last game, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about some of the things that we saw from a stats point of view tomorrow, and tomorrow's show Monday. And then we'll do a preview of the Cincinnati Browns game on Wednesday. Hope to have Mariah and Matt back, and even my have son Alec up there in Holland of Hope College back too. He might be joining the show, and hopefully from some of these post-game shows I can get them on too, and we can have a nice little back and forth conversation about how good or bad the Browns are. Today was very bad, and probably one of the more, I think last year the loss to Tennessee at home, when it was so hyped that they were going to, win that game. I think there was more. I mean, I feel like I'm upset today. I'm really upset, but last year I was even more upset because of the expectations. And so this year, the expectations, no one really, people were saying, okay, the Browns have a really good, and I've been saying they have good talent. But having Stefanski and having the first game in Baltimore with no preseason, it doesn't shock me that they lost. Of course, I picked them to win, but we'll probably not be picking the games in the next few weeks the same way that I did optimistically earlier in the week. So, all right, folks, with that, thank you for watching and coming over and watching our post-game show here. And, we will come to you tomorrow evening again, Monday. And until then, remember, everybody, to keep smiling. Everybody take care and go Browns.